Alright, good day friends, how are ya? Wait a minute, wrong country. Good afternoon friends, how are you? So welcome back to the channel here in northern Arizona, riding down Lake Mary Road on this beautiful but blustery day. And we are just trying to put some additional break-in miles on the bike. We have crossed into the second half of the break-in period, so I'm at 330 miles now. And so I've opened the bike up a bit more. I'm hitting 65, even close to 70 miles per hour now. The only thing I haven't explicitly done is take the bike up on the interstate and really pushed it, you know, up to 80 miles per hour to see how it does on the interstates. But we'll get there. We'll get there once we cross 600 miles and I've changed the oil out. For now, I just wanted to take you through my list here that I've prepared on some initial first impressions, some things that I've already discovered with the bike. First thing I want to talk about is the windshield and the seat. I am currently on the factory seat, the normal seat, the standard seat, whatever you want to call it, and it's very comfortable. I find it to be completely adequate, and I feel like for a couple hundred miles I would be fine on it. I do have the high plush seat, and it is incredibly comfortable. And if you've got long legs, it's really nice because it lifts you up a little higher off the seat and your legs won't feel quite as cramped. I have a very average male build, so I am 5'9", 31.5 to 32 inch inseam, and my legs are not cramped on this bike. As you can see, I feel pretty comfortable. They've got a downward angle, but I do think if you're over probably like 5'11" or 6 foot, you're gonna feel a little cramped. But the reason that I bring up the windshield and the seat together is very specific. So I have the tall OEM windshield, as you can see, and it's about 5 inches taller than the standard windshield. Now with the factory seat on this bike, if I click the windshield up about 4 clicks, it perfectly blocks the wind to where I get zero buffeting in my helmet. Now if I stand up just a little, immediately I get buffeted, right? And I still have a couple clicks left on this too, right? I can still go up 1, 2, 3, 3.5 more clicks. So that's as high as it goes. And when I'm here, I am absolutely shielded. Of course, now I'm looking through the windshield though, so I don't really like that. Instead, I like to kind of put it about halfway up so that I can still look over the windshield, but still get the wind blockage. However, and I discovered this last night when I took out the bike for the first time with the high seat. With the high seat on the bike, it lifts you up well over 2 inches higher, and you feel so much more on top of the bike as opposed to sort of nestled in the bike. And what I found is with the high seat, I have to crank the windshield all the way to its highest setting in order to get a proper wind block. And it's just barely, like if I lift my head up even just a smidge, I get the buffeting. I'm telling you this because if you are thinking of getting one of these aftermarket windshields that's only like 2 or 3 inches taller and the high seat, you are not going to be able to click it up high enough to stop the wind buffeting. So keep that in mind. I really like this OEM windshield. I think it does a great job. But with the high seat on, I do have to crank it all the way up, which leads really nicely into the next discussion, which is the windshield's sort of stability. When it is cranked all the way up, cruising along like this, it's fine, but as soon as you hit bumpy gravel, it really starts to flop around and appear to be kind of extra flimsy and cheap from all the bumping around. Now when it's fully retracted downward and it's sort of nestled down low, it's fine. It doesn't bounce around at all. But when it's fully extended, it really rattles and bounces around quite a bit. So again, another reason that I don't like to have it all the way up, because as soon as I get onto gravel or washboarded roads, it starts flopping around pretty badly. And that also leads to the point of this accessory bar. The factory accessory bar on this thing is pretty cheap, and I don't think if I were going to mount a Garmin or something, I would use it, mostly because of that very reason. If I have the windshield up and it starts flopping around, that thing is just going to bounce around awkwardly. So I think the solution there is there's this aftermarket bar you can buy that mounts to these 2 screws in the dash that actually fixes it onto the the console, I usually just use my phone. So for now, I have no desire to add any more parts to the bike. Just something to keep in mind. A couple of the things that I've written down. The mirrors, I like them. They're great. I have no desire to put on my usual sort of adventure mirrors that I have on my other bike with the little rotating balls. Let's see, what else? Vibration. It's very refreshing to be on a bike that does not vibrate nearly as much as my single-cylinder Himalayan did. There's still some vibration. I can feel a little bit in the handlebars here at 65 miles per hour in 6th gear, but oh man, is it so much more gentle cruising along the road like this than my my Himalayan was. It's just a delight to ride. So I don't feel any vibration in my feet, and that's with the rubber inserts taken out. A couple of gripes with the bike that have annoyed me a little bit. One is very small, but it is very annoying, and that is the high beam switch on the instrument cluster here on the left handlebar. The high beam switch is on the front of the instruments, and the way you turn it on is you sort of flick it with your finger like that. And what I find is the way that I hold my handlebars is my finger basically rests right behind it. So anytime I like shift my hands around or I stand up or do anything, I look down and the brights are on, like I've accidentally flipped it on. So it's a very frustrating design. I just wish it had a normal switch kind of on top, like a normal bike where you just flip the high beams on. So I don't know. I think it's a poor design, but it's a very nitpicky thing. Whatever. I'm sure I'll get used to it. The other thing with regards to this side of the instruments is the turn signal switch is one of the few things on the bike so far that truly feels cheap. Every time I flip my turn signal on, I feel like it's going to break off. It's definitely very cheap design. It doesn't have that nice solid sort of feedback that you get on most motorcycles where you feel that strong click when you release it. So a little bit of a downer there as well, but again, not a showstopper. Another thing that I've got written down here is the TFT, which I think is really nice. I like that it has two themes that you can switch between. You've got this theme here, and then if I go into the displays and I go down to the settings and I go to theme, I can just literally on one click change it and then back out, and now I'm on the new theme. As you can see, I prefer the other theme better, that being this theme here. I just think it looks nicer. It's got a better information on the screen. I've got voltage, miles to empty, the time of day, the gear, the speed, the RPM, and then down in the bottom right corner I've got two different user programmable sub-menus. One of them is currently set to my total odometer, and one of them is set to my average fuel economy. And what's cool is I thought you had to go into the menus to change those, but you can literally cycle through them with just the up and down arrows. So if I hit up, the upper odometer one will switch from odometer to trip 1 to trip 2 back to odometer. And if I click down, I get average miles per gallon, average speed, total fuel, voltage, miles per gallon live, like what I'm actually getting right at this moment, total time on the bike, and back to average miles per gallon. So you can cycle through those without having to go into the menus. And as you can see, I literally just flipped my high beam on right there. Again, very frustrating. All right, moving on the list here, I've got a note about the app. I've been really enjoying the app and seeing all of my tracks and stats and numbers from all of my rides. I think it's a fantastic little app. I will warn some of you though that when you pair your bike to the app, what happened to me and what seemingly happened to several other people is that it worked for like the first day, but then for about 4 days it wasn't tracking any of my rides. And I submitted a ticket to the app's help, and they responded and said, it's a known issue, we're working on it. It's working great now, it hasn't had any issues since, but it's a really nice little app and I like being able to use it. I did put a clear screen protector on the screen, one of these just, $10 jobbies that I got from like Speedo Angels or something, but I just like having that little bit of extra protection from scratching. It's very dusty out here in northern Arizona. We get a lot of cinder dust that's very sharp and scratchy, so I like to put protection on my TFTs and on my screens. The hand guards, hand wind deflectors, I think are great for what they are. They do a great job of keeping the elements off my hands. If I were going to do any sort of serious riding, I would certainly put my bark busters on. But for now, just putting around on these highways and such, I have no desire to rip these off anytime soon until I start doing some more serious riding. So really cool that they give you factory wind protection. An important thing to note about the new 2025 model is they have made a change to the exhaust from the previous model, and that is there's now only one exhaust port hole on the muffler, on the actual exhaust, whereas before there were two holes. And part of that I think has to do with like emissions, but the other part of it has to do with the fact that in the older model, the upper exhaust hole was so high up on the exhaust that it was actually melting the rear turn signal. As far as the sound, I think it sounds really good. I have no desire to put a new pipe on it. I know people are doing that because of the weight, but I like it. I think it sounds great, and I know it's a little heavy, the factory exhaust, but hey, I would rather do minimal work on this bike and just kind of keep it as it is. So I think it sounds good, and in the cockpit, it's not loud at all. Let's see, adjustments. I did have to make a few adjustments to the bike when I first got it. I rolled the handlebars up one line on the sort of indicator line. I actually had rolled it up several lines at first, but found that they were just too kind of rolled upward, and so I rolled it back down to a single increment above the middle, and I think this is, for me, a good compromise. They're still a little bit low, but I like it, and they still feel fine when I stand up. You know, I guess I could maybe go up one more click, but I don't know. I kind of just like it where they are right now. I also had to adjust the shifter for my left foot because it was pretty high up, and I like my shifter very low. Like, I like to like kind of angle my toe downward, and so I had to adjust that. Suspension, definitely stiff. I did adjust it to be a little softer, but even still on the bumpy washboarded back roads, it was definitely stiffer than my old Himalayan. And again, it also made the windshield rattle around quite a bit. So I imagine it will soften up a little bit with just riding it a little, but also I may still tweak it a little bit. And let's see, throttle. The throttle does have a smidge of jerkiness to it, but it's something that I've already gotten used to. I tightened all the cables. It definitely made most of it go away, and after having ridden the CRF yesterday, it is infinitely better than what I experienced on the CRF. So I have more or less gotten used to it, and it's really not a showstopper. Would I prefer the smoothness of the new Himalayan or something buttery smooth? Absolutely, but it's not something that I think is going to wildly aggravate me like it does on the CRF. Another thing that I think is just a little nitpick is I think it's kind of annoying that the front reservoir, brake reservoir, is plastic. It's like, how much would it have cost to put a little metal box there? Just seems kind of cheap and like susceptible to damage because it is plastic, but whatever, it's just a little thing. And similarly, you know, I know a lot of people put tank pads on the bike to protect from scratching kind of up and around this area, and you know, I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. I really like the bike, the way it looks clean, but I also don't want to just like wildly scratch it up, especially when I put my if I put my tank bag on here. So I may just put something on top just as a protection for the tank bag, but you know, I don't really have any strong desire to put a whole bunch of stickers all over the bike. I kind of like it clean looking. So I hope that these notes were helpful. I know this is just me kind of blabbing along here, but I've definitely already picked up quite a few important first impressions that I thought was worth sharing before I kind of forget about them. And yeah, so there you go, my friends. Take care, be safe out there, and please feel free to ask me any questions that you might have. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye! I did forget to mention something in this video that some people have asked me about. There's a known issue with the Ibex collecting water in one of the frame pipes, and the solution to that was people were literally drilling holes in the pipe to allow the water to drain out. The good news is this new 2025 model, at least here in the States, comes with those holes pre-drilled. So you don't have to worry about this. If it does rain on your bike, there is proper drainage now.